Uh, Thank you, Sukant Professor Bisai, for organizing this Margdarshan program activities, and Honorable Chief Guest, Professor K.K. Agrawal, Honorable Vice Chancellor, CG Odisha, Professor B.S. Satyanarayana, esteemed principals of different engineering and polytechnic institute, and faculty members. A very good morning to all of you. I am profusely overjoyed to take the opportunity to introduce our chief guest and keynote speaker of the day. He is none other than Professor K.K. Agrawal, Chairman of NBA and also Chairman of Executive Committee and General Counsel. Professor Agrawal obtained his Bachelor of Engineering degree from Punjab University and Master degree from NIT Kurukshetra. Later, he did his PhD also from NIT Kurukshetra after a distinguished service of 27 years at NIT Kurukshetra. Professor Agrawal served as Pro Vice Chancellor, GJU for a period of 3 years, and then as founder Vice Chancellor of GGS Indraprastha University, Delhi, for a period of 10 years. He has been president of the Institute of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers, that is IETE, for the period of 2002 to 2004. President of Computer Society of India from 2007 to 2009, and President of Southeast Asia Region Computer Confederation, that is from 2008 to 10. Professor Agrawal has published more than 400 papers in the reputed journals. He has been widely consulted by industry, most notable being his contribution towards the reliability analysis of PSLV, that is Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. Professor Agrawal was conferred the honorary fellowship by Broadcast Society of India. He was decorated with Lifetime Achievement Award by IETE and also by Computer Society of India. Professor Agrawal has been associated with NBA in various capacities since its inception and was chairman of ESC, that is Tier 2, before taking over as chairman NBA on 14 January 2019. We are especially honored and delighted to have the privilege of Professor Agrawal's presence on here today. I would now like to invite our honorable chief guest, Professor K.K. Agrawal, to deliver his thoughts. Please, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Professor Kanungo, for the introduction. I'm so happy to be here this morning. First of all, because the President, Shri Sanjeev Raut, spoke with me and told that the university is doing very well, and as Margdarshak, they have several engineering colleges and polytechnics whom they are mentoring. That's a project which I like very much, and I'll talk about it. And still more closer reason close to my heart, because Professor Satyanarayana, who is the Vice Chancellor of this university, I still remember having him do the good research work in Kurukshetra University when he was in MSc Electronics Department, and a very good initiation was done and good research work was done. I remember till that time, we have kept track with each other, although we have met very few times in this busy world unnecessarily. But it was a pleasure to see that he is guiding this university, which I know has the potential to go much higher. I have been to Bhubaneswar a couple of times, and whenever I visited, as a curiosity, you always want which are the other good institutions in the town. And everybody told me C.V. Raman University. Even your competitors told me that. So that's not a issue, and therefore I'm happy that I'm having some interaction with the faculty here. Not only the faculty here, but also the senior faculty of the mentee institutions which you have. Having said that, I'm so happy to find Professor Satyanarayana here, then Professor Kanungo, the Dean, and Dr. Sukant Bisai, who was doing all the hard work to put the nuts and bolts in place to make sure that the program takes on. And Let me begin with by saying that national education policy has given a new flip to accreditation. Not that accreditation is new. Accreditation has been going on in this country for quite some time. To begin with, we had the NAC, which you are familiar with, which is an autonomous body created by UGC, which accredits the institution as a whole. For example, if NAC visits you, they visit the university as a whole. And that has been going on for quite some time. Then AICT created a special body for its engineering programs, engineering, management, pharmacy, architecture. That's the programs under engineering. And NBA was born again about 25 plus years ago. Now, the focus of NBA was right from beginning on program-wise accreditation. NBA never believed in accrediting the institution as a whole because we did find all over the world and in the entire world, all respectable accreditation bodies by and large go with programs. Reasons are very simple. You start with few programs. It does take time for the program to mature. Say, for example, after 7, 8, 10 years, you are ready with 4 programs. But in the meanwhile, you have started 4 more programs, which are not very mature. And therefore, if we look at the institution as a whole at any point of time, there will be some very strong programs and there will be some programs which are not so strong. They have yet to mature up. And therefore, we believe it's not very fair to the institution to combine all the programs. Let's give them recognition for the strong programs which they have already matured. And therefore, NBA right from beginning started program-wise accreditation, number one. Number two, we also gave a maturity time right from beginning. After 2 batches pass out, then only we come in for accreditation because we don't want to here we are yet establishing this lab, we are yet setting the procedure. So 4 years of degree plus 2 years, so 6 years is a good time for us to assume that everything should be in place. So that's how we started with. But then about 12 years ago, NBA decided to be a member of the Washington Accord. Now, Washington Accord, as many of you might know, is a consortium of 21 countries now. When we joined NBA, we were 15th. Now there are 21 countries in the world whose accreditation bodies form a consortium. We agree to follow the uniform standards in all these 21 countries for accreditation. And these 21 countries include USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, France, Germany, etc., etc. So therefore, we set for ourselves a very high quality benchmark, and Washington Accord is an MOU between these 21 countries at the moment. This accord is very, very strict. To become a member of the Washington Accord, you have to be mentored by another institution which is already a member for 2 years or so. They set the procedures and then give you provisional membership for 2 years. Then they test you for 2 years and then only they give you membership. And after every 6 years, they review the membership, just as we review the accreditation every 3 years or every 6 years. So Washington Accord reviews the membership every 6 years. And last year, the review team came to India. And the review team comprised of senior professors from professors or industries from UK, Ireland, and Malaysia. They were here. They, along with our visiting teams for accreditation, they go to the universities along with our visiting team to see how the teams are functioning. Then they come and sit with us in headquarters to find how the committees are taking decisions, how industry representatives are impacting the decision, and so on and so forth. It's a very thorough process. Then they submit a report. The report goes to all the other member countries. For example, our report went to all 20 countries. And then they can raise questions and so on and so forth. And finally, whether India after 6 years should continue to be a member of the Washington Accord is voted for. And let me tell you, the rule is that 2/3 of the countries must vote positively for you. then only you get continuation of accreditation. And I'm pleased to share with you, I think India is probably the only one, or maybe very rare, where all 100% countries of the world voted for us. So all the other countries said India's system is very robust, very foolproof, and they do the accreditation process very thoroughly, so they must continue. Why I am sharing this with you is sometimes colleges or the universities will complain to us that we are little too strict. But if I have to maintain the Indian reputation in the world, we have no other option. I hope you will agree with me to be little stricter and make sure that our students from accredited institutions are accepted for employment in all 21 countries without a question asked will be a much greater service than asking you to put in a little more effort to be worthy of accreditation. And that's why to keep in view the international reputation of the country, we sometimes are a little stringent, but that's why we are supposed to be, we have to be. Having said that, our accreditation in this country, particularly after NEP, has become very important, as Dr. Biswai was also saying, as a fourth pillar. Yes, new education policy will have 4 pillars, one on regulation, one on accreditation, one on grants, and another on standard setting. But more important than that, a sentence in the policy is very important. It says accreditation will be the new norm of regulation. That sentence is very important for in future. For the institutions to exist, accreditation will be a must. Now, whether we are able to do it in 5 years, 4 years, 6 years is a different matter. But this policy does say an institution will be able to exist only and only if they are accredited. And that makes accreditation very important. And I see a bit of reality into this sentence because at the moment we have been able to accredit only about 20% to programs in the country. Now the question arises, why other 80% have not been accredited? Many of you might feel that we are so strict, we have rejected those. Let me tell you, our success rate of applications is around 90%. So if 80% have not been accredited, that means they don't have even the courage to apply to us for accreditation because they are fully well sure that they don't deserve accreditation. They don't meet the standards of accreditation. We have pre-qualifiers which they can decide for themselves and take a decision whether they have a prima facie chance of accreditation or not. We devised this process because otherwise we were visiting the institution and then used to find there's nothing there. That used to waste the time of the institution, time of NBA, money of the institution, and finally no had to be no. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is, if I ask a counter question, why parents should entrust the child to an institution who jolly well knows that they are not capable of getting accreditation? Because if you yourself are sure you are below quality, why should parents entrust that? Even yesterday, somebody was interviewing me from the media and said that the engineering education is taking a dip. What is your view on this? I said, it's simple. Engineering education without quality will have no meaning. It will always go down the drain and should go down the drain. Because engineers without quality or professionals without quality will have no right to exist. Hello?
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay, okay. I remember I was addressing the doctors because medical education was also a part of my university once. And I said, will anybody prefer to go to an unqualified doctor or a bad qualified doctor? I mean, you will never go to a doctor whom you know is of bad quality. But somehow in engineering, things are not that standardized, and we allow bad engineers to build bridges and bad engineers to design railways and bad engineers to do this. And then ultimately we face the consequences in the national development. When I say face the consequences, it is not only the cost, it's many things. Engineers have got a lot to do with the development of the society, particularly towards the sustainability of the society. Many of you would know in 2015, the world defined 17 sustainability development goals. And I'm sorry to say, the world has organized quite a few conferences, but practically very little has been done in the whole world to move towards achieving sustainability development goals. For example, zero hunger is a sustainability development goals. Why should anybody sleep hungry? Poor sanitation is the right of everybody in sustainability. Clean energy is the right. Education is the right. Smart cities is the right. Now, when all these things are the right in sustainability development goals, it is the primary duty of engineers in most of these goals to ensure that. I proposed this in the last Washington Accord meeting, that now in our 12 graduate attributes, we must add sustainability, particularly after COVID's experience. And I'm pretty sure if sustainability would have been understood better, our damage because of COVID would have been less. I won't say COVID would not have been there. It's a phenomenon by itself. But the damage because of COVID would have been far too less had the sustainability development goals would have been pursued seriously. And we are now in the process in the Washington Accord in the world to modify graduate attributes with which you are familiar with and include sustainability, creativity and innovation as part of the requirements of engineering education. That is how engineers will develop the society. And I look forward to that too. Having said that, Washington Accord also told us and persuaded us for a few things. One is most of the senior faculty of you must have gone through the graduate attributes, which we call as POs in MBA terminology, which are exactly the same as Washington Accord attributes. You will notice that these graduate attributes have much less to do with the branch of engineering. They have more to do with the attributes of an engineer. See, our problem in this country became, we wanted more and more specialization. If a head of the mechanical engineering department will say, I don't know anything, include this, all mechanical engineering subjects included. Head of the electrical engineering department will fight with everybody to include all electrical engineering subjects. With the result, we produced academically good mechanical engineers, academically good electrical engineers, but at the bottom of the pyramid, engineering per se was missing. So I say engineering is like a pyramid. See, when you make a building, you make a foundation, then the ground floor, first floor, second floor. Ground floor of education is good human being, good citizen. First floor is, talking about engineering, ground floor will be good engineering. Then will be good mechanical engineering, and then maybe good refrigeration engineering, and so on and so on. We focused on good refrigeration engineering and to some extent good mechanical engineering, but forgot about good engineering, forgot about good human beings. Now imagine a house with the very weak foundation, very weak ground floor, but trying to beautify the first floor and the second floor. Will that building stand? And stand how long and how strong? That is what happened to our engineering education. More and more specialized, less and less connected to the ground. And therefore, our engineers, I remember whenever we interview the people, they will give you some answers which are correct as per their research paper. But if you go a little bit this way, that way, things just don't work out. Just don't work out. I'll give you an example here, which is not really engineering, but it demonstrates the concept. There was a student in botany. This is an incident abroad, incidentally. So we are not much worse than the world. The whole world also moves that way. A botany student did a PhD thesis on the leaf of a tree. You know, as PhD researchers have a bad habit to try to find everything about something very small. As they say, to know everything about nothing. So about the leaf of a tree, she wrote a PhD thesis. Now, leaf of a tree, what are the size, dimension, how many veins, color, texture, thickness, all measured, histograms and research papers. She had Scopus papers and everything. A good 400 pages thesis, histograms, color diagrams, everything. So thesis was examined, found to be fit for PhD degree. Ultimately, the viva voce was held. The examiner said, well, fine, I'm satisfied. You qualify to be a PhD holder. Congratulations. And then said, before I leave, I just have a curiosity. Says, what, sir? Says, to which tree this leaf belongs to? And the girl did not know. Now, that's our specialization. We mean sometimes specialization means to running away from the ground, to go more and more away from the ground. The moment you do that, you cannot serve the society the way society expects you to serve them. So you have to be specialized, but you have to be on the ground. And that is why today we say the compromise or the balance between generalization and specialization is important. As a matter of fact, some people have gone to the extent of saying we now need deep generalists. The terminology is very interesting. Deep generalists. You should be general enough in education, but depth. Why this is important is because specializations are changing every day. And therefore, how do you design the curriculum? We are already amidst Industrial Revolution 4.0, and one research publication on Industrial Revolution 4.0 tells us that 65% of our graduates, 65% of our graduates will be taking up a job ultimately whose title none of us knows. Now, if I don't know what they will be doing, you don't know what they will be doing, Professor Satyanarayana doesn't know what they will be doing. How do you design the curriculum? How do you make sure that is included in the syllabus when we do not know what they will be doing? What technology will be there, what paradigms will be there? And therefore, our education now has to take a turn towards making the student learn to face the challenge themselves. My teaching is good, fine, but you will have to learn yourself. And it is very good if we inculcate that habit right now. Spoon feeding, good percentage of marks, good A plus, a good placement is all very important. But more important now will be, has the student acquired the capability to learn himself or herself? Because if he or she doesn't have that capability, he or she will get the first job by your efforts in placement, but he may not get the second job, may not get the third job, because on the average now, a graduate changes 10 jobs. It's unlike us. We joined a job and retired from that job. Now the graduate changes about 10 jobs, and many times job 1 may have nothing to do with job 7. They may be totally different. Therefore, this overemphasis on initial placement have to give way for continuous learning, for continuous upgradation, and what we call as meta skills. The student will not have to be skilled only, the student will have to be meta skilled, which means he or she acquires the skill to skill himself, to reskill himself. Today also people talk about unemployment. Yes, it is there. It is there because we refuse to reskill ourselves to the right direction. If we don't reskill ourselves to the right direction, things will happen that way. And a good research abroad says, if you are single skilled, it is very likely you will be replaced by a robot very soon. Because to design a single skilled robot is very easy. Supposing you know how to install and repair and design an air conditioner. Augmented reality and virtual reality will do this job much better than you. And a robot will be designed for this. Therefore, for our own survival, we will have to be multi-skilled, and we will have to ensure that our students are multi-skilled, because single skilled jobs will soon go to robot. And then tomorrow, if a student says, sir, I know everything about refrigeration, I'm still not getting a job. it will happen, and we'll be responsible for this. Because we will have to make the students multi-skilled. Tomorrow, what changes can happen? What will be the implications of that changes? And that also brings to us in the process of, I'm talking less about accreditation, more about education. Why? Because I believe accreditation should follow good quality education, not other way around. Many of our institutions are emphasizing on accreditation. That's not a very right approach. It's like emphasizing on education, not attending classes. Emphasize on examinations without attending classes. I don't want that to happen to accreditation, that some consultants are hired who prepared SARs and accreditation takes place. That is something which I would like to discourage at every cost. I would like teaching learning to improve. I would like faculty standards to improve. I would like multidisciplinarity to improve. I would like real research by students to improve. Today, 20% research papers in the world are by undergraduate students. In our country, it is still much too less. Why can't we? Our undergraduate students, let me tell you with all authority at my command, our undergraduate students are not less intelligent than American undergraduate students or in most of the cases. If they can write 20% papers for publication, why not our undergraduate research? Because why I'm saying that, once he does into that, he learns to learn new things, which will be important. I per se am not a very great votary of PhD to be a must or something, although I can't deny this, but PhD attributes are important. You learn to study others. You learn to find faults with others, academic faults. You learn to improve upon others. You learn to be critical analyst. You learn to be peep into the future, and you learn to fail. That is very important attribute which will happen. Another thing which we are teaching our students all the time is that you should never fail. आपका supply आ जाएगा, आपका this will happen, and the first division will be life and death question. If you get A minus, your life is doomed, and so on and so forth. So we invariably teach the student as if failure is a sin. Now, I don't promote that you should fail, but I certainly say failure is if used as a ladder for success, it is something to be done. I was reading a paper which is very nicely titled as Law of Wasted Effort. Paper's title is interesting, Law of Wasted Effort. He says lion, who is called the king of jungle, fails 75% times in catching his prey. Only about 25% times the lion is able to catch his prey and eat it up. And we still call it king of jungle despite 75% failures. When raindrops fall from the cloud, most of the raindrops go wasted, but still cloud is successful in doing its job. When air blows, most of the seeds are just flown in the wind, but still we get enough seeds to cultivate the next crop. So nature has designed the system where a limited degree of success is good enough. But we have translated this into no failure at any cost. Now, once we say no failure at any cost, that automatically translates into no risk taking. And if there's no risk taking, nothing happens. No development takes place. Any R&D, serious R&D effort will have to have provision for failure, next time, succeed, so on and so forth. I always remember and quote the story of Edison, who failed, I think, about 2,000 times to find an element for electric bulb. And one day his research assistant told, "Sir, I'm frustrated. We have failed 2,000 times." He says, "No, we have done great service to the world." He says, "What service, sir? We have failed 2,000 times. We try one material, the bulb doesn't work. We try second material, the bulb doesn't work." He says, "Yes, that is the success." Now, all subsequent electrical engineers know that these 2,000 materials are not to be tried on. So how much effort I have saved for so many future engineers? So that's a great contribution by itself. So that is where we have made our students sometimes, and that is why they would like to buy a project. They would like to ask somebody to write a project because he knows if the project doesn't work, teacher will shout at me, teacher will be crazy or maybe failing. See, our effort should be, has the serious effort gone into, has the sincere effort gone into, success and failure as the final ultimate goal have to be emphasized little less than what it is today. I'm not saying it should not be emphasized, because when you go for multidisciplinarity, you will obviously not achieve the best in everything. Somebody said future engineers will have to be T-shaped engineers. And from T-shaped engineers, they meant breadth in several subjects and depth in some subjects. At the moment, we have this only, depth in some subject. That's it. But I-shaped engineers will not work. T-shaped engineers will work. So we have to introduce breadth also. And this also gels with our concept of multidisciplinarity, which has been brought into NEP in a big way. And engineering education, I believe, will be the greatest challenge for implementation of NEP, because engineering institutions, by and large, developed as standalone institutions. Our IITs are great, but they are great engineering institutions. They never allowed anybody to come nearby them, except for some science departments here and there. Our medical, All India Institute of Medical Science, a great medical institution, but again, only medical. But word over, the concept of multidisciplinarity is much higher, much stronger, much deeper. Because imagine, can you have engineers or doctors without a good base of science? Everybody may not need it, but the knowledge of science will be necessary. And that is why this multidisciplinarity will be a great hope for engineering education in this country, will become multidisciplinarity. I was looking at the ranking figures. I'm also responsible for declaring NIRF. When we declare NIRF, in the first 10 universities, about 7 to 8 are engineering institutions. When I look at ranking of UK, USA, Canada, Australia, nowhere it happens. So multidisciplinarity institutions have done much better in quality. In our country, single discipline institutions have done much better in quality. And therefore, our focus had shifted to quality single discipline institutions, which has now shifted to quality multidisciplinary institutions, because in real life, no problem is solved by one single domain knowledge. You need knowledge of many domains for the solution of problems. Otherwise, the problems do not get solved. I remember in one of my trips abroad, I asked a student, I said, what are you studying? He says, sir, I'm doing medical science and economics. Well, a professor from India, I just can't imagine how can you study MBBS and MA economics together? There is no way on earth to do that in this country. I said, why are you studying medical and economics together? He says, sir, I want to improve public health system of the United States of America. Now, if I want to improve public health system of the United States of America, I must know medical science and I must know economics. And therefore, I'm studying both. And it's set me wondering, that is why our public health systems are nowhere, because we do not have anybody in India who is a good economist and a good doctor, because we never allowed that opportunity. So multidisciplinarity will open many avenues which will be needed, which will be used, and which will be very necessary. And this NEP now permits us multidisciplinarity. And multidisciplinarity, we started thinking physics and electronics is multidisciplinarity. Well, this is okay. I will call it co-disciplinarity. This is not really multidisciplinarity. People say is physics and philosophy, mathematics and music, Even one of the co-authors of National Education Policy was Professor Manjul Bhargava. He's a great mathematician in America and a great musician in America. So how mathematics and music can work together is important, and that is now permitted. In Stanford University, I went about 7 or 8 years ago, I think. They had started a 5-year program on BTech in computer science and English, and another 5-year program on computer science and music. I asked them, how come? Since the future will need them. Now we find it very difficult to weave a thread between computer science and music, or weave a thread between computer science and English. But they say if you have to talk about natural language processing a lot, then you need the computer science and English to go together. So therefore, my dear friends, as developments in education, multidisciplinarity will be important. Accreditation, we obviously need to increase this figure much beyond 20%. Ultimately, it has to go 100%. And the reasons are many. I'm not talking of engineering education alone, but in the country, there are 50,000 colleges all told. And 10,000 colleges have less than 100 students. You will be surprised to know this. Now, how do you believe that these colleges will ever meet accreditation? And therefore, the NEP has come up with a very beautiful idea of clustering of colleges. Put the colleges together into a sizable proportion and make sure they become a viable college, financially viable, academically viable, intellectually viable, and then only accreditation is possible. So this is a new concept which has been brought in, which will help accreditation. Another concept which is very great is we have at least taken a decision in principle to get away with the affiliation system in the country. This country has 90% institutions still running as affiliated colleges. And in an affiliated college, you are a university now, so you may not be able to appreciate it. But then, you know, in affiliated colleges, the syllabus is designed by somebody in the university, and that sheet is sent to the college to be followed. The question paper is again set by someone else, and he has to simulate what teacher might have taught. He doesn't know. And then the answer book is sent to a third person who neither knows what was the mind of the syllabus writer, nor knows what was the mind of the paper setter, but he has to evaluate answer books. Now, this is the worst academic system in the world, affiliation system, and the whole world has finished with it, except for India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Burma, and so on and so forth. So we have taken a very right decision that affiliated system will go, because unless the teacher is empowered to teach, things will not improve. And in NBA or accreditation, we talk about outcome-based education. How can someone else define the outcome for you? You and your student can only jointly work out the outcomes. You have to assess the student, you have to assess yourself, and then decide what can be the outcomes. Otherwise, outcome-based education will remain on paper, will really not work out in the right spirit. And I'll just tell you a small story. They say somebody wrote the accreditation document for all animals and species. And they said, okay, everybody should learn how to ride a tree. Number two, everybody should learn how to swim, so on and so forth. So a fish appeared for the examination. They say, can you climb a tree? He says, no, sir. Can you swim? Yes, sir. But you can't climb a tree, therefore you cannot get accreditation. You are failed. Come next year. Fish comes next year, the same story repeats. Fish can never climb a tree. Similarly, the monkey comes, says, can you climb a tree? Says, yes, sir. Can you swim? No, then you also fail. So we never defined the
Sir, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe muted.
How come the outcomes of an IIT be exactly same as of another private college whose fees I limit to 50,000 rupees or 60,000 rupees? And in IIT, I spend 2 lakhs and still I say I'm meeting only 40% of the costs. Now, the point is, why I'm trying to say is, when we talk about outcome-based education, we really have to be teacher dependent, and more autonomy we have, then only we can have outcome-based education. So universities should be autonomous. Number one, they should not be getting a circular from UGC every day what is to be done. Then the colleges should be autonomous, departments should be autonomous, teachers should be autonomous, students should be autonomous. A student might say, sir, I don't like mathematics 3. Can I do engineering without this? Then a faculty advisor will examine, what can he do in place of this? And that provision will have to be there. And that is why we have the philosophy of academic bank of credits and all that, where outcome-based education will design the flow chart for everybody. And finally, friends, I say, whenever you go to a class, after coming from the class, ask yourself, don't answer Professor Satyanarayana, don't answer your head of the department, but answer yourself. Why did I teach this today? I have asked many mathematics teachers, why did you teach Fourier series? Invariably, answer is, sir, it is written in the syllabus. I don't get an answer that an electrical engineer will require Fourier series for harmonic analysis. Now, unless you tell the electrical engineer that my dear students, I am bothering you with Fourier series because it is useful for you, he will never understand that. And then you will also have to decide. I always say, if you say, well, you will have to do transient analysis of the circuits to make sure that there are no glitches. Just now, Professor Satyanarayana got disconnected from us in the beginning because of some glitches in communication. So the transient behavior of the circuits has to be studied. And for transient behavior of the circuits to be studied, differential equations come into picture. And for the solution of the differential equations, you will have to learn integral calculus. For learning integral calculus, you will have to learn differential calculus. That is why I start teaching you differential calculus. Unless you tell this to the student believes you're wasting his time. And outcome-based education doesn't happen. So we talk about outcome-based education, and my simple test for outcome-based education is, after every class, answer yourself. In this class, I taught this, and this happens to equally good for polytechnic education, in the workshop, in the lab. I spent 2 hours because after this, you would have learned this, and learning this was necessary to learn this, and learning this was necessary to learn this. And therefore, finally, to become a good mechanical engineer, you must have learned heat transfer, mass transfer. Otherwise, how can you be a good mechanical engineer? And if you have to learn heat transfer, mass transfer, you must learn partial differential equations. Now, you can't learn partial differential equations till you learn total differential equations. And you can't solve total differential equations till you learn integral calculus. And you can't understand integral calculus till you learn differential calculus. And if you build up the flow chart like this, I teach you circuit theory, Kirchhoff's laws, because then only you will be able to solve the complicated circuits. Unless I built up that way, you say the Carnot cycle, lecture finished. Thermodynamics, first law, lecture finished. In exam, state first law of thermodynamics. Student answered, gets full grade, and we believe we have done the best job. Student believes he has got the highest grade, but he has not understood anything. So therefore, outcome-based education philosophically believes that we must keep the outcome in mind. We cannot go only on the basis of inputs. I give a very crude example. If you want to build a house, ultimately, the architect and the contractor will tell you you will need some 2 lakh bricks, some 20,000 bags of cement, and so on and so forth. Do you think you will put 2 lakh bricks, 20,000 bags of sand, and it will become a house? No, it will become a house only and only if these things are properly used. Similarly, we believe that if I teach 40 courses, which have been described by the university, If I conduct 10 experiments in every lab which have been written, then I am sure he will become a good engineer. My dear colleagues, it's not so. To make him or her a good engineer, you will have to go through good architectural design. You will have to go through good interfaces. You will have to go through good unifying thread. Then only this will happen. And therefore, outcome-based education is very important, irrespective of accreditation. Whether you want accreditation or not, whether you are already accredited, outcome-based education is the future. And we had in this country, ultimately your guru used to decide whether you have understood archery or not. And if the guru said, fine, it's fine. Even now in judo karate, who decides? Your martial master decides whether you are green belt worth or yellow belt worth or red belt worth. And that decision is never challenged. In NCC, who decides whether B certificate or C certificate? And that's fine. Only in the university examination, we believe 3-hour theory examination is a panacea for everything. I think that also has to change. Outcome-based education will also enable us to decide which mode of examination for which testing, which attribute will have to be brought in. And you have no business to bother the student from an examination. If you can't answer, why are you asking this question? It is the responsibility of the teacher to answer why this question is being asked. Then only outcome-based education happens. The country is still very weak in outcome-based education, and therefore we desire that Margdarshak scheme, where better built-up institutions can guide other institutions, will be necessary to increase the outreach of outcome-based education and hence accreditation. And we designed 2 kinds of Margdarshaks. One is individual professors as Margdarshaks, who can go to the institutions and guide them. And second was Margdarshak institutions, where you can take some mentee institutions and help them to drift towards outcome-based education. Accreditation will come, I challenge you. Nobody will be able to refuse you accreditation if you follow the principles of good teaching learning practices. And therefore, although I'm chairman National Board of Accreditation, I will always please follow good teaching learning practices, good research principles, good project work, good industry interaction. And you have a special session today on skilling and experiential learning and internship. Follow these things, and accreditation will automatically follow. No power on earth will be able to deny you the accreditation, but learn these things. An engineer without experiential learning, imagine what we have done. In 11th and 12th, the students don't go to the labs at all. They concentrate only on the coaching institutions. And we expect them to become very good engineers. When neglecting visiting labs, so therefore experiential learning, internship, industry connect, project work, case-based studies, all that will have to become integral part of outcome-based education. And accreditation also will have to give enough weightage to these things. And therefore we measure the outcome attributes. We don't measure how difficult was your question paper. We in accreditation have no weightage for whether your question paper was difficult or easy. We have a weightage for, did you know what you teach? Did you design the question paper accordingly? Did the student answer as per your expectations? That's what we feel is important. Not that very tough things are important. Tough things will automatically happen. Ultimately, it is the small things which make life. And I remember having read a book, which and with that I'll close because the time for technical session has come. I read the book which says, you can eat an elephant. Now the title is very catchy. So you obviously buy the book. You can eat an elephant. I bought the book. And the second page said, provided you know how to slice it properly. So when we want to make very high quality engineers, we will have to design every hour of 4 years to be properly designed in outcome-based education. Then only we will be able to design a good engineer. We will have to understand that for polytechnics as far as engineering. And tomorrow engineering and polytechnic may also merge with the MEP, because we are going for vocational and higher education for integration. I think that will be great for this country, so on and so forth. So with this, I think I'm happy to be here, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to interact with you. And I hope you have a very interesting session by Professor Satyanarayana on integration of experiential learning, internship, skilling, and project. I have only built the foundation for that lecture, where all these things are very important and they should be part of our everyday life. With this, I thank you once again, and wish you a great session and great mentorship to several institutions. You are helping the national cause by taking it along, because we need to go that way. Otherwise, there is no magic wand with us to make people ready for accreditation. With this, thank you once again, and all the best. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
sir. Sir, can I ask some question
Yes.
to clarify my doubts?
Yes, yes.
My doubt.
Yes.
Your presentation is very effective and also very interesting. I heard and I want to learn something from you. That's why that is my anxiety, and I like to share this from the 30-year experience in this technical education. I am from Odisha and Bhuvanananda Odisha School of Engineering. I am the NBA coordinator.
Please go ahead.
Sir, I am asking one question.
Yeah.
Sir, we are designing curriculum and we are achieving our teaching learning target. We design very good curriculum. We have also infrastructure. We have also good faculty. We maintain the lesson plan, also everything, all these things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what I listen from my honorable chairman of Skill Development Authority yesterday, ultimately the stakeholders are the students.
Yes.
Students.
Yes.
The quality of a student, sir, my question is, so this outcome, good outcome, it will become either from push way or in drawn way. Now, the quality of a students, how much students in India, how much percentage of our high school certificate student coming for diploma, how much students are interested for in technology, and those students, are they 100% involved in their curriculum? So if the stakeholder, which is the fourth pillar of an institution, what I learned yesterday, if they are not interested, so how the outcome is achieved? We are telling about design and innovation, what we are calling about the curriculum design, etc. But one thing said, creativity and innovation, it comes from the mind of the student. If he is interested and if he has such type of quality, this is the first thing. And second thing, this will be achieved under collaboration. Such a type of ecosystem, developing ecosystem, I mean the teaching learning factory, that concept, is it available in our country? Sir, for example, I am sorry to say that ITI, there are several in our technical education system in our country, what I am saying, we have ITI, so many ITI. Their syllabus is designed under DGST, their curriculum under DGST. And then again polytechnics. Polytechnics, there are several state council of technical education, they design their own curriculum. Similarly, there are certain university, Dean University and institutions like NIT, TTR, all these things. So among these education institutions, there is no interaction is possible. I think you may agree at this point. But these types of ecosystem, suppose we are getting some idea and we implement that. But how you develop that testing, that means idea, the innovation, it depends upon creation of idea and knowledge, and then products and solution, and then competitive advantage. So how can you test that? How we test our project
Okay.
that it require industry collaboration?
Is it?
That is the thing. So
Okay.
this is not possible. This
Okay.
is one question, sir. And my second question is the students now they are millennium baby. They are, suppose we are, if you ask them, you learn integration, you learn differential equation, as you are telling that mathematics department, they are mathematics lecturer. They do not know tangent response. They do not know why they are required the solution of a differential equation. Why they require integral differential equation.
Yeah.
What is the application of a matrix? Now we are analyzing the tangent response. That tangent response engineers can know. So only the mathematics teacher, they teach them J transform, Laplace transform, all matrix, all these things, partial differential equation. But the application,
Yeah.
Example,
Can we keep it
they
short?
are not able to, sir,
Uh,
they are not able to ventilate them.
Well
So
said.
that the students diverted from the classes that mathematics is one subject. It is in the first year. So this is not in our curriculum. We are mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, all these things. So just we pass and forget about mathematics.
Okay. Let me try
Sir.
to answer. I think I'm so happy with the question. Although it's a long question, I'm so happy because at least teaching community has started being sensitized on these things. Very fact you are asking this question is a happy sign, and I'm happy about it. First thing you said about quality of students. See, quality, unfortunately, we started measuring quality only in terms of percentage of marks. That
Yes.
itself was a wrong notion, because when you
Yes.
talk about creativity and innovation has never been found to be very strong only with academic high graders. Many a times in the life we have seen creativity and innovation with the people not with very high percentage of marks or grades. So these things could be independent also at some times. For example, Steve Jobs, who designed Apple, which is the most profit-making company in the world, was never an academic superior, number one. Number two, he consciously never recruited top graders from any university. And I've read his biography. He said, because top graders are sometimes very focused. I wanted people who could be having aesthetics in mind, who could know how the thing should look more beautiful rather than only functional. So I was looking for functionality plus beauty plus aesthetics plus cost, and therefore I found average graders are a better source of employment. So that's his written biography and observation. And secondly, of course, he says that they also did not demand very high salary compared to top graders. So creativity and innovation is not directly connected with the percentage of marks, and this has to go gradually, and with the new policy will go. Collaboration you have talked about rightly. Collaboration in this country is far too less, but today's meeting itself is an example of collaboration. You have a Margdarshan institution, and you have so many mentee institutions in one platform. That is collaboration. So there will be more and more collaboration in the future. And now, once we have permitted 40% courses to be online, if you are not a responsible teacher, student will opt for a best teacher online. So therefore, I'm not frightening you, but I'm giving a sort of challenge. You now have a fear of replacement by an online teacher from anywhere in the country, because 40% courses can be done online. So therefore, quality will have to improve even for self-survival. Collaboration will come. Degrees, academic bank of credit will permit the student to take some courses here, some courses here, some courses on music from a university in Bhubaneswar, normal university in Bhubaneswar rather than an engineering college, and that those credits will have to be coming. So collaboration will be built into the process. And the example of mathematics which you gave is you are only elaborating what I said. Probably it's also the duty of our engineering teachers to tell the mathematics teachers that when you teach this, we have put this in the syllabus for this reason. And I'm sure gradually things will change. The more and more we shift to internal assessment, continuous assessment rather than end-term examination, more and more we have projects, we have more and more students of different departments working together. So things will improve. I'm sure NEP is a beginning, but it's a very right beginning. It will require all of us to work together. It will require all of us to have the fears in mind, but not be guided by our fears. Let's take a pledge that from now on, things are going to be fine. And let us start working in that direction. And I'm sure things will improve. Thank you very much for asking and giving me an opportunity to elaborate further. I'm sure things will change, but all of us will have to work in that direction and collaborate. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sukant. Please.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Can I ask a question, sir? Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, I am actually principal of a polytechnic here at Western Odisha, Balangir district. So my query, just continuation to my colleague previous colleague's query, extension of that one. So there are actually the LPA, the accreditation for the polytechnic, sir, what I learned or what I have seen is the different criteria for the polytechnic students. So, but the how sir is factored in that the differential in the quality. Suppose there are some intakes in a particular institute. There are very matriculation is the minimum percentage of the mark. So suppose on that basis, there are certain far or remote places, and the criteria of the students meeting that the intakes are differently than the suppose in the capital city or somewhere post locality. So that way, but if the particular institution is following the practice of enhancing the quality, but it may not be because the intake of that student itself, or is it the teachers are also in the as per the we have no control because the government or the different set of actually transfers or the puts a particular person in a particular institute. But still then, if we have actually followed the practice, sir, so whether it will measure the sir, the incremental outcome or the total is suppose it is suppose in a best institute already based on say for 50 years or 70 years.
Let me intervene. I think I like your interjection again, and probably we are reiterating the same thing. Yes, so far things have handicaps. Things are not very great. Syllabus is designed by someone else, and a scope for creativity and innovation is much less. NEP is only a beginning. Again, I repeat, all of us will have to work very hard for 10, 15 years to make it a reality. And to enable us to do that, we'll have to believe in its potential and go in that direction. But so far, whatever you are saying is the reality of life, and we have to struggle with that. But let us also give opportunities to the students to think what they want. And I can assure you, in personal experience, sometimes they will come with wonderful ideas. And I think as teachers, you must have seen it in your life. Sometimes a student comes with such a great idea, which we have never thought of. I'll tell you just an example in 2 minutes. When I was a actual teacher in Kurukshetra, the 10 experiments came from the university, and we finished 10 experiments in 10 weeks. 3 more weeks were left for the semester. So I asked the students, now make groups of 3 each. Design 2 more experiments yourself and conduct them. And I can tell you, after 40 years, those experiments which the students designed were much better than the 10 experiments which the senior professors in the university have designed. So we have to give them some freedom. At the moment we are withholding their freedom. Exam mein wahi likhna hai jo which I told. Don't go here and there. But write your answer must reflect what is written in page 224 of the textbook. So that's the kind of training we gave. we have to allow them a free hand to think and then evaluate them, guide them. Some of them will come up with very great ideas which will change. And these change makers will not be 100%. Change makers will be 1% to begin with. But our duty is to encourage that 1% to go ahead. And I'm sure it will happen. I think with this, I'll have to close for another meeting. So thank you
Yes.
very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
very
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now request Dean Engineer sir to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Actually, what is rightly said that now all the faculties should come forward with a flexible mindset and they should take the responsibility for quality education. And if you look at the product is the quality education, and byproduct is the NBA, because acquisition is for byproduct. That is very important, and I am really humbled and honored in expressing my heartfelt gratitude to our honorable chief guest, Professor K.K. Agarwal, Chairman NBA, for gracing this occasion and motivating us all to keep our actually good work and efforts to enrich our students through outcome-based education paradigm. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
Namaste.
Thank you very much, sir.
Namaskar.
As always, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, sir.
Now I would request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, to give his presentation.
Good morning, everyone. I am sure, I think we had a wonderful, overview from Professor Agarwal. I can assure you, even tens of workshops with hundreds of people giving an overview would not have given the complete insight. More than a 360 from a teacher's perspective, a student's perspective, an administrator's perspective, to policymakers' perspective, plus practitioners' perspective, all coming together in the most simple and succinct language. Because see, there was no PPT, there were no hard words, but a complete holistic overview of the type that we as teachers, we have a opportunity as I said, teachers, it's a teacher-centric, it's an opportunity for the teacher. With unique opportunity to transform ourselves and transform our students and the nation that Professor Agarwal so well put. I think it's very grateful of him to have agreed, and I think it's wonderful that we could get all this in such a short, brief time. If we can simply reflect anyway, you will also have the recording, and you can go through each of them slowly, at your own time and pace. That's what the whole new education policy itself is, learner-centric. And today we are all learners at various levels. We facilitate each other. And so I think I wouldn't have much more to say because Professor Agarwal has said everything. So, all I want to now would be talking about is how do we as teachers, as again, see, some of our colleagues already asked the right questions to Professor Agarwal. He had already mentioned in his overview some how to do, but the question again, see, clarification, it is nothing. Education is about Tarka. From time immemorial, or Vedas have said Tarka is the order, basis of education. Arguments, discussion, and whereas we were somehow doing take it down. That is what is now changed with the new education policy. And so and finally, as we said, we are looking at outcome-based education. As he mentioned about the PhD example. See, after doing a whole PhD, I do not know from which tree this leaf comes. It cannot be more tragic. And that is where the multidisciplinarity, a holistic overview, whether you go into, a broad spectrum and a depth like the T that he mentioned, all of this become very critical. And so we want to showcase with some simple examples and thoughts as to why we need to take this opportunity of NBA accreditation in a very selfish manner as a process of enabling the teacher. I would really seriously say that it is for the teacher to take this as an opportunity to leapfrog and enable the student along with it. And they, because with or without us, also students are today getting jobs, they are getting into industry, they are becoming entrepreneurs. So it is a unique opportunity for us now to make use of NBA as an opportunity for us to fine-tune, rebrush, refresh, or even reinvigorate ourselves and deliver quality education. And that education and the understanding, multidisciplinary focus and understanding the cognitive ability, creative ability, analytical ability, all of that will only happen, as again mentioned already in the discussion, through experiments, projects, assignments, internships, And therefore, the outcomes have to be coming only from these. I mean, just a lesson plan and a delivery is not the be all and end all, but the key enabler are, I think, some of these activity. And so I just want to showcase, I mean, briefly in my presentation, I mean, without going into again too much of theory, as to can we do something like this within our environment, irrespective of where we are? Or can we just by combining with each other make things happen? And what are some simple steps that we should be doing to enable the student and equally enable us ourselves? So, I mean, that is, I think, the bigger aspect I want to convey in my presentation, that see, it is mutually win-win for both of us. We are going to enable the student and also enable ourselves. And so that can be the only way I think we can be successful. I'll just share my presentation. And so, as again, we had a great overview from Professor Agarwal. The whole idea of today's discussion or talking about this criteria 4 is saying that, see, this is the opportunity for us to make sure our students understand the subject, because we are talking about skilling, projects, industry internship, experiential learning. I mean, these are some of the aspects we are supporting. Student achievements are the requirements of criteria 4. But then what is this? What should this lead to? All of this is essentially research, innovation, and also as outcomes for both student and teacher. When the student achievement by default should be an achievement for the teacher. So my next, I mean, say for 45 minutes is essentially to say that how can we, again, more importantly, looking at a multidisciplinary approach, work with each other or work even among all of us, various Margadarshak institutions, which the mentees and the mentors, all of us together work for a win-win collaboration to first of all make sure we enable criteria 4, or make sure students get skilling, they get work on good projects, they work on internship, and effectively every one of this to even lab assignments and projects lead to experiential learning for the students, leading to student achievement, which should be in turn be outcomes in terms of research, innovation, entrepreneurship, and of course, employability. And as Professor Agarwal also mentioned in the beginning, employability should not be the be all and end all. It is happening in spite of us for the last 70 years. And Indian students have gone across the globe and they have succeeded. So somewhere we have done some things right. And this I want to repeat every time. And I'm sure even last time when we had a discussion, I might have said, and as Professor Agarwal also mentioned earlier in his presentation, see, we have done a decent job, but we have not integrated them properly and to deliver a product, process, or solution, or to give us ourselves the confidence that we can do something. And therefore, I just again want to repeat the highlight of whatever I want to say today is that this criteria of projects, internship, industry, I mean, or experiential learning, skilling that are all expected to be incorporated into our education is our best opportunity to make the student understand the subject, basic subject, foundation subjects, domain subjects, and all of them integrated from English to mathematics, physics, chemistry, maths to computer science, that all are linked to every activity that we do. And more importantly, if we plan and do it well in a systematic way, not only do we do good understanding or enable understanding of subjects, but we ensure that students also do something interesting and exciting, bring in their own ideas, but it equally gives us outcomes in terms of research, innovation, products, and patents for the faculty also. So therefore, don't look at this as a criteria, मतलब खाता पूरा करना है, किसी के लिए करना है. Make sure we look at it as a unique opportunity for us to first and foremost understand our subject better and deliver better quality teaching to the student. And from there, see how do we get more and more outcomes. And therefore, it will, of course, obviously lead to NBA accreditation or recognition for students with the student achievements. And equally, when teacher can integrate multiple student achievements, higher recognition for faculty and the institute, the state, and everything can happen. So that is what I would like to sort of, as I said, highlight in this presentation. And sorry, I mean, the PPT is too heavy, is not getting loaded. So we are just as a brief point, every time we should, as again, sorry if I'm harking back to Professor Agarwal, the key is contextualizing everything that we do. I mean, simply teaching, as we said, maths, physics, chemistry, English, I mean, whether it's electrical machines or, I mean, mechatronics or embedded system doesn't help. Link it to a context, and a context of relevance in this discussion for the teacher, because today we are discussing about our ability to enable this, or if it is to the student, a relevance to the student. So I think that is the key as to how do we enable, I mean, ourselves also. So therefore, we need to have a context. As Professor Agarwal already mentioned, or even otherwise, see, India is going to be a global leader, if not today, in 2 to 3 decades. And in that process, and we will have the largest number of young people. Already the iShare report 1920 says today we have over 1,043 universities and close to 53 or 54,000 colleges and standalone institutions. And as he said, NEP expects that they cannot be affiliating, they have to become degree awarding or at least form clusters. So it means they will be autonomous. So how do we prepare ourselves for autonomy is what the NBA enables us. Even if the syllabus is given by the, I say, university or, I mean, the technical education board, the classroom teaching is in the hands of the faculty. Inside a class, the teacher is the owner, the manager, the leader, or whatever you want. And again, many times I always repeat this. You see, I have my students who work in KPMG, McKinsey, Ernst & Young. And there sometimes somebody says, I am a senior vice president in KPMG. The total number of people with whom he actually works is not even more than 15 to 20, including all analysts. And that includes the person who could be an engineer or an MBA who has just finished and 2 years experience. And also maybe, I mean, some senior colleagues who have 5, 10, 15-year experience. When all of them come together and together they deliver, typically, say his team might be enabling $1 billion outcome in consultancy. Just 15, 20 people, and most of them young, fresh graduates who have no clue of consultancy, but he will give them a modular structure and process. And that young 3-year-old, my colleague students today earn maybe, I mean, say the $1 to $1.5 lakh. I mean, even sitting in India, equivalent pay along with their incentive. So if they can do that, if I am the teacher in a class of 25, 30 or 60, or if I'm delivering an elective subject for 200 people or 150, because I know there are professors in Cambridge where, I mean, some common interesting subjects, students from physics, chemistry, electronics, computer science, I mean, environment, everybody would come out to that course, and he will deliver, it will be a common course to many of them. And then their other teaching assistants will support, I mean, the student with the correction, but then they all go to one course and the professor is delivering a course and assessing all of them. So we are the leaders. Change is happening. The COVID has brought even more changes. The whole world is looking at us. As I said, the context, why we should be talking. And as Professor Agarwal also once again mentioned, sorry for adding this as a by-tune, because I just thought it's good to reiterate some points, saying soon we need to be autonomous. We need not be defined and by somebody else to what to do, but then the teacher has to define and deliver. And the definition and delivery can simply happen irrespective of the syllabus by linking the fundamentals and the emerging opportunity in every project, in every assignment, in every internship. Even if the student goes to an internship, we can link all our subjects and make him understand it through the way we make him do small activities or the way we assess him. Or, as I said, leading some of this activity to research and innovation, therefore leading to achievements for student and faculty and opportunity. Why are we talking about economics and education? Senior is to say that this is an opportunity which is mind-blowing. The country took 75 years nearly to, I mean, because we are going to have a 75th, say Independence Day celebration coming up, 75 years to come to about 2.5 trillion or which day's conversion, 2.5 to 2.75 or 2.8 trillion. But then in the next 10 years or 15 years, depending on how we do, we would be 5, 10 and some projections say even 20 trillion. That means we are going to grow 4 times, 8 times, I don't know. I mean, in just next 15 years, such a transformation in the era of knowledge economy cannot but happen without education, because so far everything happened in spite of us. So nobody bothered. The respect for the teacher was lost. But this is an opportunity for us to recreate that respect for the teacher, leveraging our education system. And we have 600 million people in education. Older people will also now have to come back to education because knowledge and product cycles are changing. And therefore, it's a unique opportunity. And as we said, it is a learner-centric education. Learner can learn at his own pace and time. That is where we need to now move into an era of, flipped classrooms, blended learning, mixed mode learning, online, offline, synchronous, asynchronous. We will not talk about all of that. But the key is, if we can simply understand that we have an opportunity today to create wonders, it doesn't matter whether, because today school kids are developing products which are going global. Companies are taking them. Companies are looking at, say, crowdsourcing ideas. So no more is knowledge and intelligentsia and excellence restricted to, say, something like Stanford, Princeton, if it is global, or saying only IIT, IISc. And if you want, I am sure based on NEP, soon we would have in another 15, 20 years, possibly 200 or 250 or even 300 universities. And maybe if these universities truly take their opportunities and work honestly, they would go even ahead of IITs and IISc. Because, many of the, if you can look at internationally, there are universities like Singapore, National University of Singapore, Nanyang Technological University, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, universities in Israel, which have just in 20 years become in the top 200, just in 20 years. So this is an opportunity for these new clusters or new institutions or universities to do that. But how will it happen is that we use the framework of NBA and NAC as an opportunity to put a process in place for us to enable ourselves, our students, our institution, then maybe our city, the state, nation, and the whole world. So this is a unique opportunity, and that all that can happen even if I am not autonomous, even if I have no way to define the syllabus, through assignments, projects, internships, and all of them can lead to research and innovation, or even just hobby activity out of this can lead to, say from survey and other, it could lead to great publications and insight. So this is the main point I want to convey, and that this can be in any emerging area, and always all emerging area are multidisciplinary. Everywhere it is convergence. Diverse factors are coming together to enable more and more things. And therefore, we also need to talk of the 21st century skills that we are supposed to impart in our education, or the multiple levels of Bloom's taxonomy that we are to enable students, so that he goes beyond just knowing or even simple applying to understanding, analyzing, solving problems, critically thinking, innovating. Creative thinking, all of them are supposed to come out of the same fundamentals, and the fundamentals don't change. So we don't have to worry whether I am in an affiliated institution or I have just the Technical Education Board has directed me to teach this. Fine. But then what stops you in your class to make it as an activity-based learning? Give them all the content ahead, because anyway, whole world's content is on the web. So if I simply give my content, nothing will change. But it is my ability to make them think, ability to make them understand to a local context, understand to a global context, understand to a national context, is where the subject becomes exciting. Or even to personal problem of a student in a family, if he's a farmer, if their father is running a small business, whatever. That is where in the contextualization is where we create all the matrices that we are supposed to deliver, and not in the subject, because these subjects have always, everybody is teaching the same, Newton's law, everybody is teaching same heat and thermodynamics, but then MIT and Stanford and Cambridge, or the KTU in Sweden and Switzerland can create innovation. It means it is contextualizing, and that is where criteria 4 is very critical. Can we contextualize even in the simplest of experiments some additional thought process? Or as again, Professor Agarwal said, can I make the student integrate them in 2 labs with a new activity, a new experiment, linking all the 10 that they have done earlier. So this, you do not need anybody to define it. It is up to you, and the assessment is up to you. And this is the only thing I want to say. If I have conveyed this message, this talk is over. I mean, because there are hundreds of things, hundreds of ways to be done, and maybe we will never be able to discuss, say, in the next 25, 30 minutes, all that we want to say. Okay. So, and this is again, once again, just to emphasize what is the opportunity. The whole world is looking at India today. In the global value chain, I mean, India is looked at as number 1. And last 3 years, when nothing happened, India was the number 2 investment destination. And industry leaders for the next 3 years also continue to say that they expect India to be a leader. And the COVID has further changed all this and made it even more critical that India will be the leader. And if you look at every domain, whether it is innovative product, whether it is a service in a new domain, or whether it is, again, Professor Agarwal said something very useful. He spoke about sustainability. The whole world is looking at sustainable development, as he mentioned, 17 sustainable development goals, and further moving towards, they're looking at circular economy. How do we even further reduce sustainability, extend it further to see that extend life of every product, extend life of every material, minimize wastage, and reuse as far as possible. And then if you have discarded, how to reprocess and recreate the material. Because again, I'm sure if this again, we need to remember this, the way we are using the materials in the world in the last, say, 100, 200 years, in the next 40 years, about 30 to 40 materials in the Clark's table or the basic elements but then, therefore, we need to be careful. And the other advantage we have today is that we can design materials today for anything and everything with the computation, with the type of capability to bring atoms and molecules. These are the unique opportunities. And the key point is service industry and new innovation or sustainability and circular economy expect a lot of innovation to happen through knowledge. And that means education is critical and engineering is a key enabler. Again, multidisciplinary, bringing electrical, mechanical all together is the key. And that is what this shows. Both service industry and innovative disruptive technologies need knowledge industry support. And he's saying that every industry, they are saying they need to get additional education. Students are saying they need to get addition. People in the job say they need to reskill. So we are moving into the era of skilling, reskilling, new skilling, upskilling, and whatever. And also everywhere it is competence. It is not just a skill. As again, we already discussed in the morning, a single skill, linear activity will be automated. Only it is difficult to automate, so the human becomes critical, opportunities become critical, innovation opportunities increase. And so, let's say we take, and just to say, if you're only looking at automation alone, 97 million new jobs are to be created. They also say there is a decreasing job demand for 85 other million jobs. But then it is just like saying, if you have even say one big industry, so much of systems and services start around it, and therefore 50% of the future opportunity is just in service industry. And therefore, again, it's very critical. We need to remember that nothing is, I mean, nothing happens just automatic or is we cannot say it'll happen inevitable. We will have to make it happen by design, by plan, by action. And the NBA process essentially gives us that framework to define our vision mission, and from there define program, departmental vision mission and vision mission for programs, create curriculum to enable outcomes to meet those vision mission, and actual practicing of that, again, I want to repeat, is going to happen through experiments, assignments, projects, case studies, internship, and all of that is in our hand. Nobody is telling what internship, what assignment, what project the student will do. If we can link the same fundamental, I can in the say, if I'm teaching say machines, or if I'm taking electrical motor, or if I'm teaching combustion, I could teach rocket launch. I can do the same combustion for power generation. I can use it for some other machine of aircraft. I can do it for, say whatever I want to. So it is very critical that say we start looking at this as an opportunity and not think that, oh, it's a headache, we have to deal with it. And that's where it says the present is pregnant with the future. The amount of opportunities that we have, we never had it 10 years back. We may not have 10 years from now, as more and more things will be automated and innovation and new developments would become more complicated, and hope always is eternal. And so, and as I said, the education and the ICT, the automation, all of this give us unlimited opportunity, and that opportunity is coming from this criteria 4 on skilling, projects, industry, internship, experiential learning. And all of them, if we are willing to work with our colleagues, leverage each other's competence, we will be in a position to innovate, do research, and even create entrepreneurial opportunities for our students, where we will also be a partner, equal partner. And therefore, it's a win-win opportunity. Please do not leave it as, oh, this is an experiment defined and some toolkit, ready-made kit has come, switch in, switch off, take data. Please don't do that. See how we can leverage it and contextualize it to more opportunities that we can make out of it, or get students excited. Then you will get unlimited, say input from students, and sky is the limit. So that is why, as we said, education, we have gone on from simple, learner, teacher simply pontificating, to doing some assignments and activity in the education 2.0. We, India, have predominantly still stuck in 2.0, whereas the world has gone way beyond from 2.0 to 3, and 3 to education 4.0. And now our requirements are coming that we need to leapfrog to this 4.0. And that leapfrogging calls for the student-centric education. And as again, Professor Agarwal mentioned, students do research. I can tell you from my small 5 years experience in Japan, see, most of the research till mid-90s, when Japan was a leading industrial product generator, novel products, electronics to any domain, were done by bachelor students. After mid-90s, suddenly, more master programs, more PhDs happened. Korea had next to nothing in 80s, and everything happened after 2000. And today, see, Korean universities are in the top 200 in the world, and Korean companies are becoming global leaders, and all of that. If you go to Korea, if you go to Taiwan, if you go to Ireland, if you go to, say Israel, nobody will hear there is something called placement office and all of that. Professor and the local industry work together. They work on both existing problems and new problems, new in the emerging area. And the student who is doing a project, an assignment or activity or case study is linked to the industry's need or the teacher's emerging area. So whenever an opportunity comes up, this student simply goes in, even before he finishes his program, literally starts working in the company. And therefore, they are countries with just 40, 50, 20 million people, and they have no shortage of skilled people or no shortage of expert, and they are producing cutting edge global competence. We will have the largest number of engineering people, education students in the near future, in next 2 decades or so. But then we say all our engineers are unemployable or there is no opportunity. So I think it is like essentially saying either I'm looking at a glass half full or say glass half empty. Because as I again say, most of our students, even a second class or a just pass student, when he goes outside, he becomes a global leader. But in our system, top ranker, gold medalist get into best of government polytechnics, government universities, IITs. But then, they only have repetitive supportive work for international universities or international companies, but no product or process comes to India. So this is an opportunity to say, how do we move towards this student-centric approach? But then make sure all that I deliver is again equally enabling the teacher, because if the teacher is not enabled, it cannot deliver it to the student. It is like saying if a pipe is only 1 millimeter, or 10 millimeter diameter, and I want 100 liters to flow out of it per minute. Without opening up the pipe diameter, I can never, there's a limit to how much a pipe can deliver. And no more water can flow out. So if the teacher is not enabled, if the teacher is not prepared, they cannot deliver the transformation. And so it is very critical that, say, we think of this as an opportunity for us to transform. And as I said, all that we want to do, again, I don't mind repeating some of the slides. See, it is saying that, see, all our education has to either enable broadly the 4 C's or the 4 W. That is, first of all, our basic teaching should make sure that it tells students about tools that are needed for working, ways of working, and then talk about ways of thinking. And once they know how to think, then say ways of living in the world. How do you now actually go into the world and deliver? I mean, work with people, enable society, enable companies. So that is where the ways of all this have to be the broad design of our curriculum. And if this is delivered, what the students, when we are assessing his outcome, at least these 4 C's have to be assessed. His ability to communicate first, then his ability to, I'm just going clockwise, to be able to think creatively. And from there, if he can know, when I am thinking creatively and there are new areas which I don't know, I should know how to collaborate with somebody to make it happen. Critical thing, even if I don't understand. And when I understand well, then I do even more new creative activity. So in a clockworks, the outcomes have to be in terms of the 4 C, the course, the content, the delivery planning has to be in terms of the 4 W's. And any project you look at, you will see here that, say, it is interlocked multidisciplinary approach, whether it is for a product for repairing, or whether it is research, or whether it's a new product. You see hardware, software, communication, architecture, everything comes together. I mean, if I have to deliver a product for a vision product, you see that, see how so many subjects are coming together. So our efforts have to be such that we need to plan our education through the 4 W's, assess the outcomes through the 4 C's, and see that while doing it, we are enjoying it. It should not be a drudgery. It should be a joy. And the joy always comes, see, while doing things, not while sitting. Even you may be already bored, exhausted. Somebody might have simply, I mean, even switched off their camera and gone out by now, because I'm talking monologue. It may or may not be of interest to you. But then if you are participating in this, then the activity would be even more lively. That is why experiential learning, as we had said from the very beginning, whether it is assignments, projects, lab experiments, internship, whatever, I mean, it has to come through experience. That is where all of the things can be cumulatively understood. And many good new universities across the globe today are saying, okay, our project for the next 2 semesters is developing a high performance security system for our lab, which can study, I mean, say, intrusion in communication, hacking, or it could be developing an electrical machine. I mean, say, underwater nuclear submarine, or say an electrical car. All the subjects, first functional blocks of each of the subjects are defined. Then say, what subject should I need? Because that's where so far our education was the education for the clerk of the 18th century. Know some information so that when that information is available, I can tabulate it in the right way. But that is gone. Today, all the information is available at the click of a button or just a touch of my fingertip. And therefore, it's a question of knowing where to get information. Once I get information, process it and use it. So they say this semester, electrical engineering is going to look at an electrical mobility. Computer science will look at a high performance computing system, which will make sure that over 1 billion data, there is no hacking, no intrusion. How do we build everything that goes into it? So divide it into multiple smaller modules. And then for understanding this, what is the first minimal understanding I should need just without even reading anything in one PPT? And then from there, as I go on working, I need more complexity. I go back and learn. Again, that's why the new education says it's a learner-centric education. So as and when I need, from my simple understanding of fundamental, I go back. And so we need to understand that, therefore, by default, the delivery of the whole content will happen if I have understood and I'm able to make things happen. So that is the challenge that we are facing. And you see, just in the last 5 years, in 2015, the key areas that were expected out of a job entrant was supposed to be some problem solving in higher level jobs, complex problem solving, coordinating with others, people management, critical thinking, negotiation, quality, service orientation, judgment, decision making. Some. Now you suddenly see now whole thing has changed in 2020. I mean, some things which were at the bottom have come to the top, some at the top have gone to the bottom. So it means the priorities in this age of, dynamic change, where knowledge life cycles are reducing very fast, product life cycles are becoming even shorter, is even more dynamic. And therefore, all this cannot be taught from the syllabus content. The syllabus content is the basic ingredient, like rice or masala, vegetable, dal. So whether I want to make dalma, whether I want to make, because it's lunchtime, I am feeling hungry already, I don't want to take too much of your time. Whether I want to make sambar, or whether I want to make Kashmiri pulao, or whether I want, badshai bengan. So it is up to me to combine them to make it happen. The content is the same. Rices, cereals, pulses, vegetables, spices, they are same. So we don't have to worry about the syllabus given by any. It is up to us to make what we want and what is exciting to me, or what is contextual or required at this point of time. And therefore, everything in a multidisciplinary way is now skills, competence, attitude. So these are the parameters that need to be drawn out of using those fundamentals, like we are talking of food. And therefore, broadly, say Harvard University has come out saying these are the key parameters, like, first assessing and analyzing information, curiosity of information, effective oral and written. This is all going back to that 4W, 4C also, collaborative across networks and leading by influence, initiative and entrepreneurship, agility and adaptability, critical thinking and problem solving. So all of this are linked to the criteria for activities. It is not linked to the syllabus defined by the syllabus defining agency, whoever it is. So now this only I as a teacher can bring it out in the class by bringing the contextual correlation. So that is where I say, make use of this. Don't be casual. It is up to us to make or change the same thing, just to say that in today's 21st century context, so the syllabus or the content course definition has to make sure it has broad foundational literacy enabled, out of the education. Competences like critical thinking, creative thinking, confirmation, collaboration is also, enabled or developed to, first of all, the foundation. Most of our education was predominantly up to now linked to just literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT literacy. Even financial literacy and cultural and civic literacy is not there today. See, a simple common sense thing, if there is a signal, I have to stop, I don't do. If somebody honks, I don't move out, because that is my cultural and civic sense of responsibility. We will still be standing on the road, or we will not move. The vehicle has to stop, and after I go out, jaywalk, then the vehicle will move, or I will run across even when the signal is there. So all our education over the last 70 years has been restricted to the first 4 activity of foundation literacy. Now we are asked to do all the other, depending on whose criteria, this can be 30, 40, 48, 56, 76. But broadly, the 21st century skills, we are now supposed to bring in, therefore, as also Professor Agarwal mentioned, financial literacy, cultural civic literacy, critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration, curiosity, initiative, persistence, adaptability. All this will come from implementing the criteria 4 and 4 alone and assessing it with design. Creating an activity by design, assessing it with design alone, this can be assessed. Otherwise, we will end up doing the clerical education, the first 4 aspects of, which was what we have done for the last 70 years, 75 years. So I think more than if this thought has gone into you, each one can, there is no one shoe fit all solution. Everybody has to do it according to his own context, based on the facility available to them, based on the problems that they are facing, or based on the students' interest. See, no student is an idiot, no student is a genius. As again, we already had many examples from morning. And so, and the teacher's job today is an unenviable job. A teacher, this is just a basic teacher. And if you are a leader, your responsibilities are even, no other domain expects you to be literally an expert in 20, 30, 40 areas to deliver quality teaching, manage with your colleagues, maintain their respect, enable your HOD or the principal or even the, if you're heading the institution, the government dictates. So it is a thankless job on one side, but if the teacher can truly use this opportunity, because he's not expected truly to be an expert in everything, and if he can leverage all of this and to become good, then see, there nobody can beat a teacher. That is why from time immemorial teachers were revered. Kings, I mean, bowed at the teachers in our, as we today say, I mean, India should be a Vishwa Guru, and the gurus, leaders respected them at some point of time. But today it is not happening because we have become clerks. अच्छा सिलेबस में इतना दिखा दिया, ये पढ़ाना है, क्लास में जाके पीपीटी लगा दिया तो मेरा काम खत्म हो गया, बच्चे समझे या ना समझे, मतलब उससे मेरा अटेंडेंस हो गया, तनख्वाह हो गया. See, that we have to come out of that attitude, and nobody can do it, only the teacher can do it. And therefore it is very critical that say we understand we have a huge thankless job on one side, but if we can leverage it, we can do wonders. That is why you see no other job today you are allowed to work up to 70. See, every other public sector jobs, they may even reduce it to 56. And they are saying only 35 years of experience. Irrespective, if you have joined at 18, you might even retire in 40s. I mean, it is depending on what they are, early 50. So, but then a teacher today can actually work up to 70 if he can go up to a PhD and be competent enough to demonstrate. And emeritus professors, there is no timeline. Up to the end of their age, they can work and they are paid. So for that to happen, we need to leverage our opportunities. Grab this opportunity of activity. The activity comes from criteria 4. Again, I repeat, I mean, it may look like I'm parroting the same thing, but if I don't understand what is my opportunity, I can never, make use of it. So it is very critical that more than simply giving example, I just want to make, so therefore it's in this learner-centric era, the whole paradigm of teaching has changed. It has to be experiential learning, and more importantly, it has to be well designed so that, the experiential learning is exciting, and equally you have designed the assessment to make sure all the skills and parameters are done. And again, any parameter in Bloom's taxonomy, any skills that are required to be acquired by the student, literacy, competence, or social life skills, can never be assessed by a written exam. End semester summative exam cannot do it. And that is why the new education is saying, make it formative. On every day, every activity, see the gradual improvement. I don't have to be an automated machine to by heart and reproduce in the exam, because all that the computer can give me on the click of a button. I have to be able to use every minute all the things that I know, my experience, my knowledge, and to take decisions to enable people. So the assessment, therefore, is the tool to get out all of this through practical activity. And that is why criteria 4, I again repeat multiple times, is very critical. And therefore it is a reversal of traditional teaching. We are moving into age of assimilating all the information and moving to, rather than simply take down or information-based education, to learning and solving problems through discussion and debates is what is the new norm. But this was not a new norm. Our original Gurukula system, that's why every student went out of a Gurukula at his own pace and time based on his learning when the Guru said you have learned. Even now, international universities, there is no such, controller of examination, paper setting, assessment. A teacher defines. So for a given subject, 4 students might pass within the first assignment, and the 5 students might have to do 8 assignments to pass, because he understands at this point he can now integrated way use that subject. And once he defines pass, nobody asks him. Just like we are talking, whether it is an NCC or some other activity, it is the instructor there, they define, and there is no cross verification. But then it needs integrity, it needs quality and competence, and lot of planning and designing. And that is what, and all that can happen. And plus, as we said, we are moving towards, we had COVID. If everybody had done formative assessment very well, we don't have to have an end semester exam. Just 2 hours, can it decide my life? And plus, even if I see one time I miss a flight, there is no problem. I can catch the next flight. Therefore, there is no need to be unduly worried. Or next train, the next bus, I can still reach my destination. It is not that there is only one bus in life, or one flight, or one train. And multiple studies across the globe say learning gives the highest outcome, whether it is in school, whether it is in college, or whether it is in universities. So, now we need to make the student realize that the ownership is theirs. We are a facilitator or an enabler, and that can only happen in the class. The syllabus by itself, whatever the syllabus, will not tell that. I have to make the student to see that, if you have to be successful, you need to understand it and use it to your areas of interest, work towards your passion. And that conveying in a learner-centric education and giving him whatever he needs to do that at his own pace and time is the teacher's job as a mentor, a facilitator, a friend, philosopher, and guide. And that is where, therefore, all of this can be more, because if I say this is Newton's law, action and reaction are equal and opposite, there is nothing more to say for that. Understanding, the teacher can say 100 things. So that is what is the role of the teacher. And and that more important is the assessment. After you having done all of it, how do I assess it effectively to see if it has happened? Not say that, oh, मैंने रटे question किया, उसने एक बार में नहीं दिया answer, तो बेकार है, fail है. Many times, in research, there is a problem unsolved for 50 years. On the 51st year, a new way of measurement or a new way of calculation comes up, and suddenly next 5 years, $1 billion industry is created. So therefore, again, there is no such thing as linear, and everything is non-linear in the world. And therefore, we need to see how do we engage and make a critical balance between our methodology and our pedagogy, between our curriculum, assignment, activity, or how strict we are in designing the rules, or how we are flexible, but make sure it has to be customized or tailored to the student. And all that, again, I repeat, cannot happen in a summative written exam. All that can only happen through experiments, assignments, practicals. Sorry for repeating it so many times. Somewhere we lose the simple information. And that is where, again, criteria 4 is the key to achievements, outcomes, success of both the student and the faculty and the institute. And that is not written down in the syllabus. It is only when we do it in the class. And this, I again want to reiterate. And so I'll not take much of time. So therefore, the classroom assignment and assessments are the basis for all the teaching learning outcomes that have to happen. It has to relate to what, who, how, why not. Everything has to come in this assessment process. And so the student learning by processing cognitive, behavioral, affectively, or socially, all this have to be integrated in the class. And these, as I said again, can again, I am repeating, can happen only with all activity. It cannot happen with some mugged up assignment and questions. And therefore, even with one simple experiment, you can create more creativity, more thought process. Even you don't have to do anything. Ask them to read from the web and come with more suggestion. Look into their real life. So this is just to say that how these activities can bring in the various competences of creativity, critical thinking. So whenever we do what we do in the class, encourage them through play-based learning, break down learning into smaller coordinate pieces. See, today, increasingly teachers, even if they are going to teach a class, the best of universities have 5 or 7 minutes content. All that is uploaded. Student comes there, then in the class while teaching, he takes the first content, in that they start discussing. That 7 minutes. Student can read it any number of times, ask question. In the class, they discuss assignment, activity, or contextual correlation. Then next, so the 40-minute class is now broken into, say, 8 parts of 5. 5 parts of 8 minutes. So therefore, we need to look at the delivery, and the delivery is not dependent on the syllabus. It is dependent on us, the teacher. And can we create all this competence in the student is what we are expecting. So therefore, we are moving, I'll not talk too much, but moving into the age of flipped classroom and blended classroom, and that more than in the theory, you can link the theory itself, everything to the lab. You can bring the lab class and teach the theory. So traditionally watch teacher lecture, or traditionally do homework individually. But in the new mode, everything is done together in teams in the class, and they all sit, watch multimedia, discuss. So the whole paradigm has changed. For lack of time, I will not go into all of this, but just say that can we leverage blended learning and activity to deliver our course and content and enable the student? And therefore, activity, I cannot buy in new equipments, I cannot buy new facility, but then what I can do, what my system already sees is the labs that I have, the experiments that are there, the soft or open source simulation activities and videos that are there in the web, with even from a mobile phone. Even if the student doesn't have, I can download and showcase and discuss in the class. So we need to create this change of mindset, teacher as a facilitator, a mentor, friend, philosophy and guide, and the student as a learner, and creating and this blended learning, again, delivery by the teacher involves 4 steps, and teacher has to plan and prepare. First of all, creating the learning resources and tools, fully familiarizing themselves to oneself before I go and teach. Next is delivering the lectures. But even while delivering the lectures, whether it is a synchronous class where we are facing the student, or whether student is learning on his own, or whether it is an online class, it becomes very critical that say we need to also plan for engaging the learners in a creative way. Therefore, today the teacher is not just teacher, he is equally an actor. He should be a complicit, a great competent actor to be able to excite the student to come into the class. And that is where, again, breaking them into small, exciting fragments, linking it to contextual outcomes at each stage, assessing them dynamically, all of them have to happen. And therefore, even the assessing and evaluation has to be continuous, formative, and it can be better done for all parameters and matrices with projects, practical, experiential learning, as I am repeating multiple times. I just thought that, see, simply giving 4 examples of practical is easy, but to reiterate in whatever way we look, it is up to me to define my own context is what I want to showcase, and then sky is the limit. And therefore, as I said, the assessment can be hundreds of things. It can be quizzes, predefined context, day-to-day activities, flexible online, offline class, open book exams, all sides of assignments, minor projects, major projects, syllabus-based presentation by students after you have given them the content. And more importantly, make the student assess themselves rather than you assessing them. More research-based activity, case study, and asking questions beyond the Google. That is where, say they will be understanding it even better. And when you're doing assessment, to make sure it is fair and multidisciplinary, all the competences are assessed, because if communication has to be assessed, if quantitative ability has to be assessed, if physics has, why not all the teachers sit together and assess the project guide may have 50%, remaining 50% given by others, and also give him, the student, the inputs to understand it well, better if he has missed something, because finally he has, so the key is minutes and finish up. Sorry for all the multiple confusions and delay. So we want to say that, see, it is like saying, create all these practical activities as in the student, which should lead to observations and reflection. And from this observation and reflection, inferences, conclusions, or decisions need to be made. And then based on that, again, you could test new concepts or new ideas. And again, just like a parrot, I want to say that none of this can happen in a content delivered theory class. It has to, and it can, and it will only happen with activity. And therefore, these activities are critical. And as more and more new domains, increasing specialization is happening, we need to therefore start with a broad base. And as we go to higher level, it becomes narrow. And that is what we discussed in the morning as a T, a broad base, and then going into depth in some domain. And therefore, it has to now, can we move to an education domain where it is minimum viable instruction strategy for teaching? That is, I give some bare amount of simple instruction, make the student understand it through his own self-learning, because 21st century learning is learner-centric learning. And the learner has to learn his own pace and time, and he needs to understand even on his own if he has understood or not. And so therefore, my education has to be a minimum viable instruction strategy and not talking like me for hours together without even giving you an opportunity to think. So, and that can only happen when I give or make students do the activity, give them the basic instruction. Wherever they have a problem, they will search information. I also say where to get information, search it on their own, or come back to me with a question once they have an issue. So can we move to this rather than we talking? I mean, see, where we see that we set a syllabus of 40 hours and even after 50 hours, our syllabus is not over. It means our design is wrong. Our 45 hour syllabus should be delivered in 14 to 15 hours, and the remaining 20 plus hours should be taken in carrying out activities and assessing the understanding. Or rather, after every class, maybe 2 hours or 1 hour of activity to understand. And once we have fully understood how to use it, move to the next class. So, but then we are converse. I mean, जितने subject हो सके उतने लगा दो, जितने content हो सके लगा दो. उधर PPT समझा दिया तो मैंने तो जी सब कुछ पढ़ा दिया. But then we are teaching. Are they learning? Is the question we want to look at. And so again, I have my own pet peeve of calling it as all our teaching and outcome assessment should be based on this 5 I. If we can answer these 5 questions, as after every class of teaching, Professor Agarwal said, you need to ask the question. Can the teacher say that today, did I give enough? So therefore, these questions after every class or every activity, both in planning and in assessment, and then the implementation can only happen in a case study, a experimental activity, a project-based activity, and an internship. I mean, even if he is doing an internship in a company, how do I help him correlate to all the subjects that he has studied? Is my job as a teacher to see that it leads to meaningful outcomes. And finally, impact is the achievement that can happen. So, I mean, it's, and as we, therefore, again, many times, I'm sure you would have heard it everywhere, but it's important to understand that I hear, I forget, I see, I remember, I do, I understand. And there was Confucius who said 500 years ago, or 500 BC, sorry, not 500 years ago, thousands of years ago. And then, or Chanakya also said the same thing in Siddhir Bhushayati Vidya, that is the glory of knowledge or the embellishment of knowledge is ability to practice it. I mean, to implement it. And therefore, that is what the new education wants us. And that can happen only when we do or leverage criteria 4. And this should be done in such a way that say it creates pleasure, it creates a joy, it is enabling us, and it should not be a drudgery. And it therefore, with excitement, I learn more. I mean, if I am forced into something, therefore it has to be linked to my passion. So these are things we need to look at. And typically, I would therefore want to say that whenever students come in, when we teach the fundamental subject, excite them with all the new things that are happening or making them understand core important things in life, which they might have not correlated with the subject, so that they get excited. Oh, if I learn this, I can do or work towards my passion. That's what creating the joy of this learning, engineering. And when they go to it doesn't matter whether it's engineering or diploma. The next level, when they go into the core domain and also get some basic equations to do some calculation, that is where they get into the spirit of trying to see if we can now make just by a simple understanding to even possibly calculating something. And when they do project assignments, practical activities, they're going into the era of the magic of learning, where they're actually creating something or analyzing and understanding something new. And so that is why all this activity are critical. All of them, I mean, therefore, learning environment, processes, application, how do we link all of them? Everything is multidisciplinary. And this multidisciplinary activity can only happen when we get immersed into the depth of some domain with broad understanding of fundamentals in multiple domain. It will never happen, I mean, in a linear way. And therefore, again, multidisciplinarity is critical. So I'm just giving some examples of multidisciplinary emerging opportunities where all subjects can work together. It can be an electrical vehicle. All subjects can work on it, from finance and commerce, social to, I mean, economics, marketing to engineering. Similarly, the digital twins of transformation. I mean, see, these, I mean, the digital world, so many things that have artificial intelligence, machine learning, and I mean, the amount of digitization where machine and man and communication are coming together is a huge opportunity to bring all subjects together. And that's where, similarly, cybersecurity is one more area where multiple things can be brought together, and big data analytics, 3D printing, and material science. So within this 4 or 5 area, we would have a few trillions of dollars of opportunity for the next 50 years. So, I mean, is there somewhere it is defined as finance, economics, sociology, human development, mechanical, civil? No, but these are the big areas where, I mean, billions and billions and trillions of dollars opportunity happen, or similarly blockchain. So, so that the whole process becomes more visible, transparent, accountability, everything comes up. And so to deliver that or to enable it, we need to think differently. Not, again, it's a common example you can use everywhere, like 8 blind men. It shouldn't be 8 blind men looking at an elephant, but each of them getting their inferences and then we discussing it together to solve problems through activity. That is why, again, criteria 4 is very critical. This is just to show one or two examples and we'll close it off. See, Singapore University, for example, all sorts of things. I mean, University of Design and Technology, every year the students do projects and they link all subject activity to product or process development and start understanding it. This is showing how their labs are structured so that, I mean, different domain people can come and work together, and it need not be, this lab is not just for one subject. All people can come and work together. And for example, in one of my previous institutions for about 4 years, trying to do experiential learning, linking multidisciplinary assignment, we were able to help launch India's first Pico satellite or a solar car, which ran about 3,000 kilometers in a solar rally in Australia, or a UAV, which won NASA's best design award. Or actually, this quadcopter was one of the first quadcopter developed by NAL, where our students participated. I mean, today, of course, I mean, drones are a dime a dozen, but at that time, it was one of the first one, and our students were engaged in the project. We all learned on the job. Similarly, a first race car team in India was formed maybe 15 years back in that place. So it is just to say that, see, we don't have to know everything to get started. Curiosity and interest, and without even knowing, by student assignments and projects were so designed that the faculty also learned on the job, student learned something, and finally products and process happened, which were, and some of the car alone and the satellite have many technology where these students have now become entrepreneurs. They have futuristic technologies all built inside the institutional campus. For example, one more, I'm just showing some example because you might have not heard of RV College of Engineering, you may not have heard of KLE Hubli, but then the KLE Hubli today, MIT is using this as a case study of how to have from a first year course, bring in about, because 25 companies have been set up from the student assignment and projects relevant to people, from health to architecture to manufacturing to, I mean, drug delivery products have happened. So I'm saying that just by joining together, can we bring in, and by activity, we are bringing in the student cognitive, interpersonal, intrapersonal capabilities. And when all of them are brought together, and sky is the limit for us to achieve. And so the whole process of doing it is through experiments, projects, assignments, and that you need to start, you don't need to know completely. First of all, discover what is an interesting area for all of us to work. Multiple things can be done. You don't even have to waste time preparing too much. Then say from this discussion, define what all can we do in 1 semester, 2 semester, and then carry out those activities, note down the data, analyze the data, or look at what from the data, say what else can be done, and your product, process, assignment, projects can happen. It is not very complicated. And as I said, is just to say that how we could do, I mean, say distribute the whole product or a process into some small functional blocks, and to understand it, maybe just find out best 5 products in that area, or best 5 review papers in that area, 10 or 15 patents in that area, and start discussion, analyzing, studying them. Or then go and find out if you can find some bachelor, master, or PhD thesis on the web related to that. So from that, then you say, what can you do from your student assignment projects, and use that activity to now define some level of activity. Say, I don't have to start making a race electrical car. Today, electrical race car can drive 35,000 Newton per hour sort of thrust, but I don't want to make that. Can I simply bring in some small motor and a drive, create some switches and control to do a functional block, just a flat board, which will move forward, or put 2 pillars and 1 seat so that I can sit and move. That's a go-kart. So I start with that as a functional block, and can I move to electrical car? Or similarly, therefore, it's a question of doing simple things, and then sky is the limit to what students can do, and from student, what teachers can do. And therefore, system and design thinking and linking these assignments and projects can lead to multiple outcomes. And that is why they are very critical. And again, I want to repeat to all my colleagues, this activity is not under the purview of any university, curriculum defining academic council, any technical board, or any process. It is only up to me and my colleagues to do it from whatever facility I have and whatever I can take even from free. Don't even think you want to put money. Split it into your assignment and project activity cost initially. And if something is exciting, then get back. If you have some proof of concept, then go and ask somebody money. And then many things can happen. And when you are assessing them, whatever activity, therefore, please create a rubrics of what all. First of all, see, can you know what are the fundamental laws or fundamental equations? Does the student know that? Is he able to express it clearly with some simple example? Is he even able to read what he has written or read a reference article clearly so that you know that he is understanding the terms? Then what are the questions? I mean, ask him to say, what can you do? Or if you have, give him a context and say, so does he have the ability to think? Ask question. How does he make his written report and presentation? How are they? And then you go into problem areas. And so it's on, and you can see that you can create a matrix. And just I conclude with this saying that we are happy to say in CV Raman, we have multiple centers available where you can come and your students can come and work here, and nothing can stop you. We welcome over 25 plus centers on all aspects, including, as I said, from automotive, electrical, hospitality, capital goods, refrigeration, retail, garments, telecom. I mean, plumbing, electronics, hospital, whatever you want to, student can also come and work and see. Working from here as a 10-year institution, if our student can win, I mean, with the input from the management and the faculty, even where, suppose he won an electrical engineering student won a water technology award. And I am sure you may know that in this world skills, companies including Hero, Honda, Maruti also send people. So far, India had not won a medal. Nobody might. So the student actually, you don't forget about the PPT. The student actually won award. If you have seen, did you see, the student image? Hello? Did they
Yes,
just
sir.
see the,
Yes, sir, audible, sir, audible.
and did they see that image of the Ashwath Narayan?
No, sir, no, PPT is stopped, sir.
No. Oh, sorry, I just take half a minute. I'll finish. Very sorry.
Yes.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. See, this, so just to say that, did they see the previous lab images, various labs in CGU?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So, see, working on that, if students can win, today we have 17 companies in the campus, the incubation center, and say great amount of infrastructure. So we want to look at how can we work with all of our partners and mutually see. Your student may have a great idea, I may have an understanding, we could jointly. So a couple of MTech, BTech student, a diploma project can be linked to an BTech project. A BTech product can be linked to MTech. We all could work cumulatively, learn each other, or some of the faculty in the Polytechnic can even go look at higher education and research outcomes linked to that. So how do we work together? And this is not just about accreditation. So what I want to convey clearly is that this is a process for us to enable ourselves, enable our students, and make sure cumulatively we all progress. And broadly, I would want you to remember, essentially, all of this is linked to our accreditation process. See, the 3 V's. What is the which you need to know is, let's say, vision, volume, and value. That is, one is having a vision activity, then just thinking by myself, working with more people, expanding the scale. And then when we expand the scale, are we also creating value or simply expanding? These are the 3 things in every activity. If we can look at, we will have outcomes which are successful. Similarly, even more important are the 4 P's. It cannot happen at random. Planning, prioritizing, a definitive, well-defined pace, and the process. So accreditation is actually just enabling, giving us the footprint or the template to do all of this. and more importantly, the 5 C's: willingness to change, effective communication, critical thinking, creative and innovative thinking, and effective collaboration. So if we can do all of this, there is nothing. And again, nobody has ever been always successful. As again, for example, Bill Gates said, success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. An expert is one who has done maximum mistakes. So don't worry about failure. Don't worry about mistakes. It is up to us to now leverage this opportunity and see that we all work together. And especially, as I said, use the criteria for, I didn't want to give too many theory and lab and sequential process. Hopefully I've said something which is meaningful, because I can say that it has been useful for me in personally to do something in an Indian environment. In a 50-year-old college where no change happened, we created change. In a 3-year-old college, university, in 3 years, we created transformation, which even India's IITs do not have. So I believe it doesn't matter what is the syllabus, who is defining it. It is the activity which defines the outcomes, and the activity comes from key enablers under criteria 4, and achievements can be unlimiting. Sky is the limit. If anything is limiting, it is our imagination. Sorry for the intermittent stoppages. Hopefully I'm still able to convey that it's a unique opportunity for us to leverage our assignments, projects, activity, and experiential learning to become not just enabling our student outcomes, but create outcomes for ourselves and also truly become leaders. And this is an opportunity for all academics now to become leaders, and we should regain our position of honor and strength and dignity once again, rather than allowing some tuition institutions across the globe to take over. Thank you very much.